how the police track guns. Let's get into it.
There's a growing concern among law enforcement about untraceable ghost guns.
During our 5 o'clock hour, in a story we began working on before the pandemic, we exposed how these weapons, originally a favorite among hobbyists, are now popular with criminals. But NBC2 investigator Evan Dean also discovered there are grave concerns about the gun tracing process itself.
Between the flashing lights and yellow tape, there's a growing new concern within gun crime in America, with the very weapons being used. It's a new challenge in solving gun crimes, one that takes us to the ATF in Tampa.
This is where we're going to put primarily our handguns.
And inside their evidence vault to see the problem up close.
As you can see, this particular firearm has no serial numbers anywhere identifiable.
They're called ghost guns. They're untraceable, and investigators are finding more of them at crime scenes. They don't have a serial number.
Correct.
There's no background check.
Correct.
Is that a big concern?
Well, absolutely.
If we let them take our guiding gun.
Well, it's known as the Gunshine State.
There we go.
We have 6 bays. We're fully automated. Press it as softly as you can.
Thing is, you typically won't find ghost guns sold at licensed dealers.
You technically do not need me if it's not a serialized firearm.
Instead, they're often sold online as gun kits. Technically, they're unfinished firearms, so there's no serial number or background check required. Nothing to stop a criminal from buying one and building it.
That seems like a bit of a loophole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But they can do that. In our current state, that's absolutely what we see a lot of.
Our interest in untraceable guns led to a rare offer from the ATF, a rare look at exactly how they trace all guns used in crimes. But the actual work doesn't happen here, not even close.
Watch your step. Thank you. DC to West Virginia.
In fact, there's only one place in America where all crime guns are traced.
There's not much out here.
Martinsburg, West Virginia. Home to some 17,000 people and the ATF's National Tracing Center.
So we're busier now than we've ever been.
That's Neil Trotman, who led our tour of the facility.
This is ATF's second largest facility.
He got this out of the way quickly, so I will too. Tracing a gun is unlike anything you imagined.
An officer will say, hey, we recovered a firearm. Can you punch in the serial number and tell me the history of this gun? And that's not at all how the system works.
So, how does it work?
What make, model, and caliber do you have?
When a cop finds a gun at a crime scene, they call the tracing center. Workers here take down the information and start making their own calls. First to the gun manufacturer, then the wholesaler, and eventually the retail dealer, who will have what's called a Form 4473, a record of the gun sale. On that, the name of the person who bought it.
That's a lot of steps.
There are some steps.
It's not just a snap of the finger.
No.
Let's go. Right here so we can.
And what if a dealer goes out of business?
These are all the 4473s.
And here's a typical.
They're required to send their records to the tracing center. Right now, there's 4 to 6 million new records per month. Boxes upon boxes waiting to be processed.
Around 2008, we reached a point where we were receiving so many out-of-business records that we had to process that the floors were looking like they were starting to buckle. We had too many boxes inside, and we had to start storing some off-site.
It started with 2 shipping containers in the parking lot. Now they have 35. Eventually, the forms are processed. They're cut, scanned, and digitized. But to be clear,
we're not inadvertently developing or perceiving to develop any kind of a searchable type system.
Is that because there's such concern over that?
Yes, that's exactly why.
Because you've said that maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
That's because federal law prohibits them from creating a searchable database. When tracers comb through records, they can't just type in serial numbers and hit search. It's more like speed reading. And none of this is to mention the added challenge of ghost guns, which often can't be traced at all.
Do you ever wonder, man, there's got to be a better way?
No, I'm not going to answer that. Well, certainly that's probably the first thought that would come across in any individual's mind, is that there has to be a better way.
A pair of bills in Congress aim to modernize the tracing process, but so far, neither have made it out of committee.
It's a change that can be made relatively easy, just that it's not going to come from ATF. It has to come from Congress.
Making the already tall task of tracing guns and solving crimes in the Sunshine State even harder yet. For the NBC2 investigators, I'm Evan Dean.
Ghost guns and all that stuff, man. Yeah, y'all have fun with that. Anywho, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. I'm gone.
Be sure to subscribe to my second channel.